Hello. So I'm actually super excited about this topic. Y'all know I nerd out when it comes to time management, organizational skills, all the things. So I'm super excited to just bring you some like tried and true do's and don'ts of organization. My nose itches and I don't know why. Um, so this is not time management. This is specifically organization. So if you want more of the time management side of things, the Boss Mom scheduling system is what you want to go to. And everything is going to be linked in the blog that goes along with this. I also have a really good freebie for you guys this week. We're going to give you an organizational pack that you can download and you can fill in and kind of see the things that you need to tweak in your own home and have the tools to help you do so. So if you're watching this on YouTube and you're like, I don't know who this chick is, my name's Tanya Johnson. I'm the founder of the Boss Mom Company. And I founded this company to just help women who were specifically running businesses while raising babies. Now, this particular training, usually what I do is on Sundays, I will have a homeschool specific training. Wednesdays, I'll have a business specific training. So this specific training, one reason I love it is because it is for everybody. If you're a homeschool mom, this is relevant to you. If you run a business and you're trying to raise babies at the same time, this is relevant to you. If you are not a traditional mom, maybe you are a dog mom or a fish mom, this is relevant to you because organization and time management go across all walks of life. So go ahead and drop me in the comments. It doesn't matter if you're watching this live or a replay. Let me know, are you a mom? Are you a homeschool mom? Are you a dog mom? What walk of life are you tuning in with this today? So just again, I also want to put a disclaimer here that there's nothing new under the sun. I have been taking time management courses since college. Those of y'all that don't know, I graduated college in 2011. I started in 2006. Yes, it took 5 years to get a 4 year degree. I was that smart. But that was a long time ago. So I have consistently been taking time management courses since then. I've been taking organizational courses since my daughter probably was two, maybe. So for about 6 years. So there is nothing new under the sun. I did not create this system. All I did is I found a bunch of pieces from different systems and plugged them in into a system that works for average, everyday, ordinary moms who maybe don't have a handle on organization. So again, just want to throw that disclaimer in here. If you see something and you're like, oh, that kind of looks like from so and so's program, it probably is. It's probably something I picked up along the way, meshed it all together, put a cool name on it. We call it the Boss Mom System. And that's what it is. It's just time management and organizational systems that work for real life moms in today's society. So what we're going to cover with this training, it is a little bit lengthier than some of the ones I put on here, but the reason for that is because I feel like this information is super valuable, especially where we are nearing the new year. It's going to be 2023. Let me know if you feel like you are super organized and super productive. Let me know that in the comments. If on the flip side, you're like most of us and you're like, I could get better, let me know that in the comments. Most of us are trying to get better going into 2023, and that's exactly the tools that I'm going to give you. We're going to talk about, let me make sure I'm saying this correctly. We're going to talk about some do's and don'ts of staying organized. We're going to talk about 3 steps to stay on task every single time. And then also a few roadblocks that are very, very common that can very easily derail you if you don't know what to watch out for. So again, this is organization. This is not time management. If you want time management, head over to the blog, which will be up tomorrow. If you're watching this on Facebook live, it's Wednesday. The blog goes up on Thursday. That's where you can access all of the show notes from here. So anything that I mentioned as far as links and things like that, you can get over there on the blog. And then that's where you'll also be able to access the organizational pack that we're giving you all for free. So here are a few systems that are don'ts of organization. Now, I call them systems because there's not a better word for them. They're not good systems. They're actually very bad systems. And they're bad because they lead to overwhelm. But there's three that are very common with moms, specifically. One of them is physical triggers. And what this is, it's a system where you rely on a physical trigger to remind you to do something. So that could be stacks of laundry laying around your house that are going to remind you that you either need to start a load or you need to put a load away. That could be something as simple as stacks of bills lying around to remind you to pay them. What we had in one of our houses is we had like a mail thing by the door. All it turned into was a bunch of stacks of mail that was a reminder that I needed to open the mail and pay the bills. And I'll be honest, it was super overwhelming. It was an eyesore. I hated it. And eventually we got rid of it. Hi, Miguel. So it's not something I'd recommend. Now, the reason that that system doesn't work is because it clutters not only your house, but it clutters your mind. And again, it leads to overwhelm. Overwhelm is something we're going to talk about a lot in this training because that's something that most moms deal with on the daily. And it leads to so many problems. It leads to health problems. It leads to mental health and physical health problems. It's just not something that you should have to live with. What's up? You can try YouTube.
YouTube, I know is working, but Disney and Prime and Hulu is being weird.
Go ahead. She earned a little TV time today while I'm doing this, and the TV is not working. So it's probably working. I'm sure nothing's wrong with it, but it's just it needs tweaked, whatever is going on. So, anyways, it's going to cause you to feel overwhelmed, and that's going to lead to a host of negative emotions and feelings and just things we're going to get into in a minute. So, basically, if you can prevent feeling overwhelmed, you're going to prevent a lot of negativity that comes your way. Also, you might not have a whole lot to do, but if you got 5 piles of things stacked up around your house to eventually get to, your mind's going to go into overload because it looks like you have a lot more to do than you actually do. The second bad system we're going to talk about is having constant electronic reminders. So having constant alarms on your phone to remind you to do things. Think about it like this. If you, and you may not have never had an issue with this. I've absolutely had an issue with this. If you hit snooze enough times in the morning, eventually you're going to hit snooze and then wake up 2 or 3 hours later realizing you overslept 20 of your snoozes because your brain just kind of tunes it out because you've done it so much. That's the same thing with our alarms in our phone for reminders for doing things. Eventually, our brain just kind of treats them as white noise and they don't really mean anything anymore. So don't fall in the trap of doing all the electronic reminders. And the third one we're going to talk about are post-it notes. So this is kind of similar to the electronic reminders. And this was a big thing, I feel like, a few years ago. I don't feel like a lot of people teach this anymore. But having post-it notes all around your house, again, your eyes will physically see them, but your brain's going to get so used to them, there's no urgency. You're not going to actually complete the task on there. Eventually, they're just going to blend into the background, and you have lots of post-it notes around, but they don't actually serve you or do anything. So those are the three things that I would absolutely avoid. Those are the don'ts of being organized. Those are things that I would throw out of my vocabulary for 2023. And I'm going to show you, I'm going to implement some good things for you guys to put in its place. Because we all know you don't ditch something without replacing it, or the success rate is going to be very small. You want to replace it with something better. Now, in short, all of these systems that I just mentioned are going to lead to overwhelm. Overwhelm sucks. Drop me a 1 if you've ever felt extremely overwhelmed in your homeschool, in your business, in your parenting journey, in your marriage, fill in the blank. Now, I want to tell y'all a little bit about my story because it's important to understand this. I get a lot of people that will tell me, oh, it's easy for you. You're just so organized. You're so good with your time. And I was not always like that. And a lot of people don't realize I didn't learn any time management skills until I was in college. I didn't learn organizational skills until, again, my daughter was about 2. So I did not grow up with these skills, and I absolutely had to learn them exactly how you're learning them right now. You're on this video because you're wanting to be more organized. So I can tell you, yes, absolutely anybody can be good with their time and can have an organized life. But It's not going to happen overnight, and it's not going to be easy. Now, I want to say this because I have a lot of moms that I've talked to that they have very bad anxiety, just like I do. I have the type of anxiety that I will go into what's called I don't know that it's called this. I call it this. I call it paralyzed mode. I get so overwhelmed and so anxious that I just shut down and I don't do anything. Like I literally feel like I'm paralyzed. And during that time, I sleep a lot. That's what I kind of turn to. What I wanted to share, or the reason I wanted to share my story, and I'm going to start kind of from the beginning, is because I want to give that mom hope who thinks, I'm just an anxious person. I'm just unorganized. I just can't get anywhere on time. My life is just always going to be a mess. It doesn't have to always be like that. There's absolutely hope for you. And yes, if you struggle with severe anxiety like I do, there's still hope for you. So that's why I wanted to share my story because most people are not going to have the extreme that I have, but they're going to have some level that's extreme to them that makes it feel like they can't get a handle on their life. And that's what I want to show you that yes, you can. And we're going to help you with some very, very simple systems. So, again, I just want to start back when I was a kid because I grew up in a household that was very, very chaotic. Now, this was before I knew that I had severe anxiety, and honestly, I might not have back then. I don't know all of the science behind it. I don't know if it was something that's just like chemically in my brain that I was born with, or if it's something that stemmed from my outside circumstances, or a little bit of both. And I wouldn't be surprised if it is a little bit of both. But my house was very, very chaotic. There was stuff everywhere. I'm talking like hoarders levels. Like you can ask my husband the first time that he saw the house that my mom and siblings lived in when him and I started dating. Um, it made his skin crawl, like hoarders. Um, we didn't have systems for anything. We were not on time for anything. Like our life was, if you could put a label on our life, it would be a hot dang mess. So that is what our life was. Um, because of that, unfortunately, it also left room for a lot of abuse to happen from outsiders because there was not any systems in place. There weren't any safeguards in place. There wasn't a whole lot of supervision. And eventually it got so bad that I turned to vices to just kind of numb it and to tune out the noise. And that is something that I'm looking out the window because I'm in the office and there's people driving by. That is something that I struggled with for years. Now, when I went off to college, it got better and I did get clean for a little bit. The obviously the circumstances, like the environment, was cleaner as far as like it wasn't hoarders anymore. I was living in the college dorms. There was a lot less noise. However, guys, college is hard in general. So this was also before I knew that one of my triggers for my sobriety was overwhelm. And again, I'm going to tie that all in a minute. But when I was in college, I did really good for a while. Okay, I don't know what they're doing. I did really good for a while. And then again, college is hard. And I did not have any time management skills at all. So I burned the candle at both ends, so to speak, for a very long time. What I would do is I would basically just do this until I couldn't do it anymore. And then I would shut down for 24 to 48 hours, pretty much sleep a lot. We had what was called infirmary, where you went and you paid $3, I believe it was. I think they changed it to 10 by the end of my college years. And you basically would get a pass for classes that day. And I would just stay in my room and sleep. Okay, listen to my kid. She's doing YouTube or something. Um, I would just shut down completely. Again, I would go into paralyzed mode. Then the next few nights, I would pull all-nighters trying to catch up because I was behind at that point. And it just turned into a vicious cycle. Burn the candle at both ends until I couldn't stand it anymore. Shut out for a day or two. Play catch up. Burn the candle at both ends. And it was just a cycle. It would get so bad to where I vividly remember this multiple times. I would skip lunch because I would be so tired. I'd go back to my room and I would say, I'm just going to take a 30-minute nap. My roommates were working, so there was no one there to like remind me or wake me up. I would set my phone alarm, and then next thing I know, I'd wake up and it was like 7 p.m. I'd have 25 missed calls and text messages from my coworkers and my boss. No one could get a hold of me. And I would be in panic mode because I thought for sure I was going to get fired. Now, I had a boss that was way better than I deserved. If anyone on here knows Rocco, shout out to Rocco because I should have been fired several times from that job. I was a good worker, but I did do the no call, no show thing because I just was not good with my time. Hey. So, having said all of that, eventually in my third year of college, I believe, I turned back to my vices because, again, I was just so overwhelmed. I needed to cut the noise. Now, when I met my husband and I started dating him, again, I got clean. And this, I got clean for the last time. I will say I've been totally clean and sober for, we've been together 10 years, so 10 years now. But this is where I learned that overwhelm was my biggest trigger. And again, this is also when I learned that I had very, very bad anxiety. I wasn't just emotional. That's what I always told myself. That's what my mom always told me. Oh, you're just emotional. Yeah, I wasn't just emotional. I had some like very serious issues that were going on that no one recognized or knew how to help me stay calm. And so I would have legitimate panic attacks over really small things. And it would get really, really bad. When I was dating my husband and eventually married my husband, there were times he'd be going to work and I would just have such fear that he wasn't going to come back because I have that like abandonment inside of me that I would bawl. And I don't even know, like, I don't even know how he married me. I'm not going to lie to you because he was not used to dealing with any of this kind of level of anything. But he was very understanding and, was like, oh, it's okay. He would text me like every hour while he was at work. Like, I was a lot, guys. I was a lot to put up with. And I know that just looking back now, I don't know if I could have dated myself, but he was very good about it. But fast forward to having my daughter, and I transitioned into working from home when she was about one. Money wise, we were doing better, but mental health wise, I was not doing better. I still had very little time management skills. I had a little bit, but not a lot. I had zero organizational skills. And multiple times I would get irritated with my daughter because she would be crying or doing like normal baby things. I'd snap at my husband. I'd sit and cry for no reason. My life honestly sucked. I hated every minute of it. I didn't like being a mom. I didn't really like being a wife anymore. I just felt like I sucked at everything. And that is really when I told my husband, I was like, I think I'm just doing too much. And he very lovingly was like, Tanya, you're not doing too much. Like, you're doing a pretty normal amount. The problem is you don't have any systems for anything. Now, he didn't say it in those words because he also doesn't have any systems. He still doesn't to this day. Our brains work very differently, but his systems are kind of on autopilot. Like, he does the same thing day in and day out, but he doesn't write them down or anything. So he doesn't look at them as a system. So I guess I'm lying. He does have a system. He doesn't recognize them as systems. I didn't. And because I was working from home, I had complete control of my time. I would get up when I wanted. I would watch Netflix. I just was very lazy. And again, I didn't know that. I didn't know how to have a handle on my time. I didn't have a lot of discipline. And it led to me feeling very overwhelmed. And all that to say, that is when I was like, okay, I need to get a handle and figure out something. So I started taking some organizational classes online for free. I learned lots of different systems. And that is kind of what I want to roll all of this into you because most of y'all do not have the extreme story that I have when it comes to overwhelm and anxiety and eventually drug abuse and just all the things wrapped up in one. But a lot of you, because you tell me this, you do get so overwhelmed that you feel paralyzed. Now, you may not use that word, but I can't tell you how many moms I talked to one last week who was like, man, I really want to make money with you. Like, I want to buy your course and I want to get started, but I just have such anxiety right now. I can't take anything else on. Like, I can't do anything. And she told me, she's like, I can't even keep up with what I'm already doing. And immediately I recognized that and I told her, I was like, hey, no pressure at all. I totally get it. I've been there. You get so overwhelmed that you go into paralyzed mode. Like, I have severe anxiety. I get it. Now, again, I'm not going to give all the information that I'm giving you guys to her over a voice message on Facebook, but I'm giving it to you guys. And when people come to me and they're super overwhelmed, I'm absolutely going to send them this video. And I would encourage you, if you have people that are watching or people that are in your life rather, that do get overwhelmed consistently and easily, send them this video. It will help them put systems in place to where they won't feel overwhelmed near as much. And I'm not going to say I'm going to cure it because that's not a thing, especially if you have severe anxiety, but you absolutely can lessen it. What's up, kiddo?
Um,
You want to say hi?
yeah.
Say hi. She's getting ready to go to her Christmas party soon. A little bit. Go do your stuff. Um, so having said all of that, I want to get into some systems that do work. Go ahead and leave that door open a little bit. It's very, very warm in here. Oh, never mind. Go ahead and shut it. There's people out there, so I can't leave the door open. It is like, I'm in South Carolina. It's 78 degrees today. Y'all, it's the first week of December. Like, I don't even know what's going on there. Hey, Donna. Donna knows my family very, very well. Just talking about a little bit about my past and anxiety and overwhelm and some systems that we're putting in place to prevent some of those things. So I will tell you, now that those organizational systems are in place, as well as the time management systems, I am way more organized than I ever used to be. I'm talking about I get to start my days leisurely. I get up and I do my devotions. I don't feel overwhelmed hardly at all anymore. I won't say never, because again, you don't ever completely get rid of it, especially when you have anxiety the way that I do. But you can absolutely lessen it by putting these systems in place. So a couple of the organizational do's I want to talk about. And I'm giving you like a 50,000-foot overview here. So this is not the nitty gritty of time management. That is over in the Boss Mom scheduling system. You absolutely want to check that out to plug and play some of the things we're going to talk about today. But a couple of things in this section that I would absolutely recommend doing are going to be kind of linked up here. The first one is get up early and go to bed early. Now, you might say, no, Tanya, I'm a night owl. I'm a night owl. I totally get it. I actually hate this system, and I tried to prove it wrong so many times. Multiple times, I'll stay up late, get up late, get really good grasp of my time. I'm just not as productive. And that is tried and true. Like, I have tried this with so many of my clients. I've had other coaches do it with their clients. And again, you can get mad at me all you want. I'm mad at myself for the fact that this is true, but it's not my opinion. It is a proven system. Get up early and go to bed early. Now, the cool thing is the term early is relative. My early is between 3 and 5 a.m. because of all the responsibilities that I have. I have a friend, Mandy, who is also incredibly successful. Her early is between 6 and 7 a.m. We are different walks of life. She's not a mom yet. When she becomes a mom, I'm sure her early will change a little bit. She's obviously not homeschooling because she's not a mom. We both run businesses from home, so we both have that in common. We both have partners, so we're doing all of those things. But when you add kids to the mix, your early is probably going to be a little earlier than someone who doesn't have kids, or than someone who's out of that season of life and maybe has teenagers or adult kids. So early is relative, but get up early, go to bed early. The second thing that I want to point out that is a system, that is a do, that absolutely does work, is go over your schedule each morning before you get started. So before you do anything, sit down, review your schedule that you should have written out on Sunday night or Monday morning or whatever the first day of the week is for you. And you're going to basically just see, hey, do I need to tweak anything? You're going to focus your mind on what it needs to get done that day. And this is going to help you not feel overwhelmed, because just looking at a giant to-do list is very easy to feel overwhelmed. This is all the stuff you got to do this week. You look at it and you're like, oh my gosh, like there's no way I have time for that. But having broken it down into baby steps day by day, looking at one day's worth of tasks is going to be a lot more manageable, and it's going to help you not feel overwhelmed because you already have them plugged into time slots. So it just makes it very easy for you to not feel overwhelmed at that point. What I do every morning is I grab a cup of coffee. I sit down again, 10 to 15 minutes, and I go through all of my new information. So any text messages, any new emails, voice messages, basically anything that was added to my to-do list yesterday. So if I said, yes, sure, I'll go to your baby shower, then I'm going to say, okay, that's the new information. And I'm going to ask myself, can I do this in 5 minutes or less? And is it a one-step task? Or does it require 2 or 3 steps and longer than 5 minutes? If it's a one-step task and only requires 5 minutes, I'm going to do it right then during my little morning session. It's not even going to go on my to-do list. I'm just going to get it done. So an example of that is this morning, I had a text from my husband saying, hey, can you text so-and-so and just make sure we're still on for such and such? So I shot a text message this morning, said, hey, just wanted to make sure we're still doing this on this date. I didn't need to write it down. It just needed to get done. Now, another good example for that is I need to set up dentist appointments for us. So again, I was reminded of this yesterday. It's not something I could just do at 4 o'clock in the morning. So I wrote it on my to-do list. So then I asked myself, okay, is this something I need to rearrange my schedule and do today? Or is it something I can put on my schedule to do next week? So for this one, I just put it on for next week. It's not urgent, but it does need to get done. So any new information that comes in, if it is 5 minutes or less in one step, you're just going to go ahead and do it. There's no point in overthinking it. Just get it done. If it is more than one step and it's more than 5 minutes, then you're going to decide, okay, is it important or urgent enough that it needs to get done today or this week? Or can I put it off till next week when I make a new schedule for myself? So you get to decide, but it is something that, again, it kind of, you're clearing yourself, you're clearing your inbox out of your head. And so again, the whole point of this is to alleviate overwhelm. This system does it. The third system that you want to implement is getting up before your kids. Now, again, if you're not a mom, this doesn't apply to you. Most people on here, you're moms. Get up before your kids. Again, I'm not a morning person. I don't love this one, but when I implement it, I do love it. When my daughter gets out of bed, I've already had my coffee, I've already taken my shower, I've already done my devotions, and I'm in a good mood and I'm positive and I'm ready to welcome her with loving arms. I love it. When we roll out of bed at the same time, I start feeling grumpy and irritated because I don't have anything done yet, and I shove a Pop Tart in her face and say, here, eat breakfast. Like, go watch TV or go do something. I got to get stuff done. We both start with a negative mindset. So get out of bed before your kids, which leads me into system number 4, and that is start your day with journaling, reading, devotions. Ideally, start your day with Jesus. Obviously, I get it. Not everyone's a believer on here, but I encourage you, if you are a believer, start your day with Jesus versus trying to end it. And obviously, we talk to him all throughout the day. But what I love to do is I sit down, I read a few chapters of my Bible, kind of meditate over whatever I've read. I do my journaling, and in the blog that I've attached to this, I do have a journaling guide for free that y'all can go download and see exactly how I do my journaling. And then I read a few chapters of some kind of a self-development book. This week, or this month rather, I'm reading a book. I forget what it's called, but it's about building relationships with your kids and helping them build that relationship stronger with you than they do with their peers, because the parent-child relationship should be a stronger one than the friend-child relationship. So it's kind of what I'm going through right now. And so again, when my daughter gets up, I set the tone for our day. So if I set the tone for our day, it's my responsibility to get up and physically set the tone. Otherwise, I don't know what the saying is, but something to the effect of like, everything leads to chaos unless I can decide, hey, oh, good, we're going to lose connection. My family is going to be organized and going to have good time management skills and going to be kind to each other and have a good tone in our household because I'm going to get up and choose to start the day correctly. So those are the do's and don'ts of organization. So some of the don'ts, just to recap, are going to be don't have any physical triggers that remind you to do things. Don't rely on electronic reminders excessively, and don't do things like have post-it notes around your house. And if you're just jumping on, make sure you rewind when you watch the replay and catch that section. Now, the do's of organization are going to be get up early, go to bed early. Don't fall into the trap of trying to be an all-nighter or a late-nighter. That is going to stunt your productivity and your attitude in general. Get up before your kids. Get your day started right. So start with journaling and Jesus and personal development. And just remember, we are the tone. We set the tone for our families. And then the third one, which I already forgot because I'm super good at remembering things, which is why I have notes. The third or the last one rather is go over your schedule before you start anything. So each morning, go over your schedule, know exactly what you're going to be doing for the rest of the day. Now, here's the three-step system. This is what it looks like in real life. So I just gave you a whole bunch of organizational do's and don'ts, systems that are good and bad, principles, whatever you want to call them. Now, how do we actually like plug them into real life, right? So again, organization is what we're talking about. If you want more time management, do the time management section at the Boss Mom scheduling system that's linked in the blog. If you're brand new to time management, you may also want to do the give yourself a time audit, which I've also linked over in the blog. Now, putting it all together, or tying it all together rather, the first step in this three-step system is just put it all together. So this is specifically talking about your to-do list. Do not fall into the trap of having some items on a notes app in your phone, other items on a paper planner that you may look at once a week or whatever, and having other items. I had three different, okay, I might be the only one that does this, but other items on like random scraps of paper in your purse. I am awful. Things will pop up while we're sitting in church and I'll just write it on the bulletin, shove it in my purse, thinking somehow magically, I guess I'm gonna like pull that paper out and remind myself. I don't know why we're messing with the internet here. I use the Boss Mom Planner system. We have a homeschool option and we have a business option as well. Again, both linked over on the blog. But they have really awesome time management sheets and evaluation pages and a running to-do list over there. So that's what I personally use. And what I do is it is paper. So once a week, I will sit down and write out my to-do list for the entire week. Now, again, the Boss Mom scheduling system goes a lot more into detail of how to prioritize that to-do list, how to plug it into time slots. I'm just talking about organization right here. So I have it all on one sheet. Now, what happens is I don't have that with me 24/7, but I do have my phone with me. So I have in my notes app, I have one page that when things pop up, I'll add it to that page. And then every morning during my 10 to 15-minute looking over my schedule, I'll take everything from the notes app from the day before and transfer it onto my paper planner. So that means every single day, I have a current to-do list sitting in front of me that I can glance at and see what needs to be done and what can be pushed off until next week. Now, the second system for this, so we're going to plug it in, or we're going to put it all together, and then we're going to plug it in. So this is where you want to use a planner. And again, like I'm going to get hate on this. That's totally okay. I've worked with hundreds of moms when it comes to time management and organization. Use a planner. A planner is going to be your best friend. Here's a few reasons why a planner is crucial. Now, it doesn't have to be my planner. You can get a planner from Walmart. You can order a Happy Planner or an Eric Condren. Um, this is not a sales plug of, oh, you got to use my planner or you're not going to be organized. I'm just saying use a planner in general. Now, I am biased to mine. Obviously, I created it for a reason, but that is not the point of this video. Now, the first reason you want to use a planner is you can visually see the time that you're wasting. And this is where you'll want to give yourself a time audit. If you're thinking, I don't have time to put anything else in my schedule, but my life is also chaotic, give yourself a time audit. I promise you, you are wasting more time than you realize. I did this, I've done this on myself multiple times. It's always shocking, but it's a good shocking. The second reason that you want to use a planner is you're always going to accomplish more. Time's tricky, guys. If you don't schedule it out, you always get less done than you think you're going to get done. But if you do schedule it out, you always get more done than you expect to get done. I can't explain it. I don't know the science behind it. I'm just telling you this is what it is. The third thing, and with that, I want to give you like a very small, not a trick, a tip. When you are scheduling out your day, make sure you schedule in 5 minutes or so transition time between tasks. Nothing is going to hurt your overall productivity and like the way that you feel about your day by always starting tasks late and feeling rushed to get them done simply because you didn't have a transition window. Number three, and why you should use a planner, is you can prioritize. You can very easily look in one place. We all know we have tasks that are higher precedence than other tasks on our list. You can look in one place and very easily see the things that need done immediately, the things that you should get done, and the things that can probably wait if push comes to shove. And then the fourth reason that you want to make sure that you schedule, or you want to make sure you use a planner rather, is you can pick the unrealistic expectations. I've done this more than once, guys. I can't tell you how many times I'm like, I'm not going to schedule my time today. I just need to sit and work. I don't have time to write a schedule out first. That's my line. I don't have time. The irony is not lost on me, by the way. So I'll have a list and I'll tell myself, man, I'm going to work my butt off. I'm going to get all this done. I would not be surprised if I had this done by dinner. And then you know the story. Noon comes and goes. I start feeling very rushed because I don't have near as much done as I think I should have done by noon. I start jumping on my husband. I start getting very irritable. I start treating my kid like she's a burden versus a blessing. Now I don't physically tell her that, but she can tell, I can tell, like you know the mood that you get in. Like I'm just gonna be honest with you. I'll be honest with us, right? Be honest with ourselves. Um, Instead, what I should have done is scheduled out those tasks because then I can look on paper and I can see exactly how much time realistically I have and exactly how many tasks I can actually get done. Then at the end of the day, instead of feeling very overwhelmed and like a failure because I feel like I didn't get enough done, I not only feel accomplished because I got everything done that I set out to do, I've also had time to do crafts with my kid and read books to her and be a present parent, which is the whole reason I started this in the first place. So use a planner. I'm going to use myself as an example, a bad example. So over Thanksgiving, we did a lot of traveling. My schedule pretty much went out the window. I stopped scheduling things. When we got back last week, I didn't schedule a day. And you know what? At the end of every day, I started feeling a little bit overwhelmed. By the end of the week, I was feeling pretty overwhelmed. And I told my husband, I was like, ooh, nope, nope, that's not a feeling that's allowed in our house. We're not doing that. So, you know, Monday morning, I got up, I put pen to paper, I practiced what I preach, and I sat down and wrote out my schedule. It's now Wednesday afternoon. Monday and Tuesday, so in 48 hours, I got more done than I had the entire previous 8 days. In addition to that, I had time to do crafts with my kid, play games with my kid. We watched a movie. We made Christmas cards. Guys, if I'm not living proof that we should all be scheduling our time and using a planner, I don't know what is. Now, so that's just a little real life example for you. Now, number one, let me make sure I'm saying it right. Number one is put it all together. Number two is plug it in. And number three is proceed with discipline. Having the plan is easy. Executing the plan is not easy. The goal is to get to a point where we can live on our scheduled time as an 80-20. 80% things go as planned. 20% it's a hot dang mess because we're moms. Now, now someone just walked by and waved at me. I'm like, hi. I know I'm sitting here talking to myself with a ring light. It's cool. Um, if you feel like your kids are okay, first off, if you're thinking, dang Tanya, I don't even know if I can get 10% on schedule because like there's no way, like my kids don't let me do that. First off, kids thrive on structure. It's very hard to teach them structure if we don't have structure. So it starts with ourselves. But if you feel like there's just no way your kids could live on a schedule, that is a telltale sign that you need to implement these systems. And again, I learned this the hard way. I learned everything the hard way, guys. I'm not like smart at all when it comes to learning from other people. I'm like, oh, I know better. I'm just going to do whatever. And then it always turns bad. So, moral of the story, don't be like me. Um, but give yourself grace. Mind the organizational do's and don'ts, follow the systems, and be cautious of roadblocks. Now, again, your kids, your kids know, like your kids know if you are serious about this or if you are just going to let them do whatever, whenever. So set the example, set the tone for your house, get yourself organized, and I promise you, you're going to have such a better 2023 than you had a 2022. And I'm not even saying you had a bad 2022. I know for me, my 2022 was pretty dang awesome. But I want 2023 to be better because I always want to be learning and growing and implementing new systems that make my family and mine's life, I don't think I worded that right, my family and mine's life, whatever, our life, that much easier and that much more fun and have room and time to build those relationships. Now, the roadblocks. I've got 4 roadblocks and we're going to wrap it up. So we have already gone over, if you're just now hopping on, welcome. Thank you so much for tuning in. We have gone over the do's and don'ts of organizational systems. I've told you a little bit about my story and the fact that I learned all of this as an adult. This was not something that I was brought up with. It's definitely not something that came easy to me. It's something that I trial and errored my way through. And then we learned the 3-step system, how to like plug and play it into real life. And again, check out the Boss Mom scheduling system. It goes way more into detail with the scheduling and time management side of this. Now we're going to go over the 4 roadblocks that will throw even like the most organized mom off. And then I'm going to let y'all go and enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. So the first roadblock are distractions. TV, social media, online shopping, you fill in the blank. There's so many of them. They can all become distractions. Now, I'm not saying you cannot schedule them in. I schedule in a lot of time for shopping, just saying. But those can all become distractions if they're not scheduled in, because then they're taking time away from what you already committed to do something that you should be getting done and get off your list. Now, one thing that's not a distraction is our kids. Kids are absolutely not a distraction, and we want to make sure that they never feel like they're a distraction or like they're a burden. Um, Something that now, if you feel every once in a while like they're a distraction, that's normal. They're kids. They're not as structured as we are or as we should be. Um, they depend on us 100%. And sometimes that's inconvenient. However, that's also what we signed up for as moms. And we're going to miss this one day. I know, and I have to remind myself physically, holy crap, speaking of kids, one more. I have to remind myself of this when my daughter is doing something that's particularly annoying or, again, just an inconvenience, or I'm like, oh, I really got to get this done, like, hurry. I have to remind myself, I am going to look back on these moments and I'm going to miss them. So enjoy them while I have them. Now, if you feel like your kids are a distraction majority of the time, that's a different story. That usually stems from poor behavior. So if you feel like that, you may want to look into some parental help because that is not normal. That there's going to be probably one of three areas that are out of line. Either your home lacks structure and your kids are just following suit because kids are going to mimic what the adults do, and you can't blame them for that. That is something that they're kids, part of their nature is they just copy us. So if your home lacks structure, they are going to feel like more of a distraction because it's going to be hard to get them on a schedule. Um, you may be on the other side where you're too focused on your task list and you don't have enough time for them and they need more time. Because I will tell you, they need time. They are, again, they're the reason we're doing what we're doing. So always remember they're more important than your task list, but there's got to be a balance there. You absolutely can do all the things that you need to get done, running a business, running a homeschool, having a clean house, having the meals, but you have to do it in a way where your kids are involved in the process and they're enjoying the process, that they're not feeling like you're butting heads the whole time. And then the third thing that may be off is the love discipline balance. You may be leaning too heavily on the love side. And I'm not saying you love your kids too much, you can't love your kids too much. But if you have no discipline and the love is, I forget if it's phileo or whatever the actual word is, but the kind of love that's superficial, where you're giving them all the things and you're basically spoiling them. I hate to even use the word spoiling because I feel like it's overused for things that are not spoiling, but you get what I'm saying. And they're acting out that way, or on the other side where it's all discipline and you have no relationship with them. So again, if you feel like your kids are a huge distraction all the time, no matter what you try, I would highly recommend getting some parenting books, parenting classes, fixing the root of the issue while you're fixing the organizational and time management side as well. The second roadblock is going to be procrastination. We all are familiar with procrastination. I love to use Mel Robbins' 5-second rule. What she does basically is any task that she comes to that she doesn't want to do, she counts backwards from 5. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. When she says 0, she gets up and does the task. No questions asked. It's a system that she's put in place to trick her brain into just doing it. That has worked very well for me. That's what I've started doing. It also works for getting up in the morning. A whole separate blog. But the alarm goes off. You want to hit snooze? Don't. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Get your butt out of bed and get what you need to get done. You're an adult. You shouldn't be hitting snooze 25 times a day. I am preaching to myself because guess who loves to hit snooze? Right here. Guess who's an adult and should not be hitting snooze all the time? Also, right here. So, preaching to myself on that one, but it does work. Um, Now, the sneaky procrastinator's cousin is Miss Perfectionist. Perfectionism is procrastination in a pretty package. Our brains will tell us, oh, you can't get started on that task because you don't have time to, do all the bells and whistles. Our brains will tell us, oh, can't be finished with it yet, can't move on, it's not good enough. So this is the trap I fall into. The normal procrastination, I'm pretty good at not doing that anymore. Didn't used to be, but I'm good now. The perfectionism, that one gets me more often than I care to acknowledge. So here's the rule that I set for myself, and it's something that I have a lot of my clients do. A lot of type A personalities that are running businesses, they can fall into this form of procrastination. So a good rule of thumb, set a time limit for the project. When the project's over, you're done. You don't get to spend hours fine-toothing it and trying to pick it apart. It's good enough, it's done, roll it out and move on to the next task. I have to give myself tough love in this department. The third roadblock is setting boundaries. Now, this basically is just learning how to say no. A lot of times, especially if you are a homeschool mom, people look at you like, oh, she's home all day, she has time. I had to get really good at this in the beginning of my homeschool journey because I had just transitioned to being a work from home mom, which is like a whole thing in itself. And we're like, oh, I mean, I'm not busy enough. Why not homeschool, right? Like, that just seems normal. And I remember we were thinking about moving, and we're going to move to an area that a friend of mine lives. And she made the comment, she's like, oh, I'm so excited. We can go Starbucks and do shopping all the time. Like, it's going to be so great. I'm going to be at your house all the time. And I told my husband, I was like, I don't have time for that. And in her mind, because she was a stay-at-home mom, her husband paid all the bills, and her kids were in public school. So she had a lot more time than I had as a new work-from-home homeschool mom who I'm doing all the things by myself. And there's nothing wrong with either one. I'm just saying our lives looked a lot different. So from the outside looking in, however, we were the same. So when people hear, oh, you homeschool, they automatically hear, and I don't know why this is, oh, you have a lot of time. If I need something, I'm going to ask you to volunteer for it. So learn how to say, no, I can't volunteer for XYZ. Nope, you can't just drop in and have coffee whenever you want. Now, barring an emergency, like if a friend ever dropped by and was like, oh, I'm having a really rough day and I just need someone to talk to, yeah, come in. I will drop everything and talk to you. But if she's like, oh, hey, I'm going to go shopping, like let's just swing by and spend 3 hours chatting and have coffee. I don't have time for that. Like I have a whole list of things to do, and that ain't one of them. So basically, you're just getting used to saying no. You're setting boundaries, and you're making sure that you respect your time. If you do not respect your time, no one else is going to respect your time. And then the last thing is overwhelm. That's a huge roadblock. And guys, I feel like this whole video was teaching you how not to be overwhelmed. However, so I'm not going to repeat myself on that. But like I said, I have such bad anxiety that I get into paralyzed mode. And I literally just won't do anything for days on end. Like I said, when my husband and I were first married and my daughter had just come, so I guess we were married for like 2 years. He was the one that was there to see the extreme paralysis where the dishes were backed up to the point where we didn't have any plates to eat on. None of our clothes were clean. At one point, he had to go out and buy a pack of underwear because I had no clean laundry in the house. I would randomly bust out crying for no reason because I was so overwhelmed. I hadn't showered in days. I was it was dark. I was in a very, very dark place, and it lasted that way, unfortunately, for about a year and a half. And I think I hid it really well, because I didn't want anyone to know how bad I was struggling. So on Sundays, I would get up and do my hair and makeup and go to church. Now, I look back at pictures, and I can absolutely tell that I was struggling. No one ever said anything to me, so I don't know. I'm guessing no one knew. Um, on the internet, you wouldn't know because I'd post old selfies and selfies with um, Snapchat filters and stuff. But I was struggling really, really bad. So overwhelm is something that is a huge roadblock that will hinder you from being organized. And it's funny because it's a cycle. Not being organized leads to overwhelmed. Overwhelmed leads to not being organized. So you kind of have to just like nip it in the butt wherever you are. But it is one of the hardest ones to prevent. And I don't think you can like prevent it 100%, but it's one of the hardest ones to prevent. However, it is definitely one that you can, again, nip. I say nip in the butt. My sister-in-law told me that it's not nip in the butt, it's nip in the bud. It's apparently a gardening term. I'm not a gardener. I grew up in the desert. Like, nobody knows how to do that. I always said, and I grew up saying, you nip it in the butt. I thought it was a term for like dog trainers. So I still say nip it in the butt, but I know that is wrong. But you just kind of meet yourself where you're at. So, having said all of that, the category of overwhelm, every system that I just gave you is going to help you not be overwhelmed. That's the whole point of this video. Get organized, be less overwhelmed. Um, Now, what I would tell you is, again, give yourself grace. Feel free to reach out to me if you have questions or if you need help with certain topics, but give yourself grace. I hope that y'all found some of these beneficial. And until next time, this is Tanya. I'm reporting to you live from the parenting trenches, and I will see y'all next week.